In Russia, a factory belonging to one of the largest explosives manufacturers is on fire following a drone attack. Ukrainian drones attacked Dzerzhinsk in the Nizhny Novgorod region overnight. Russian social media channels began circulating videos showing thick smoke rising over the city. Media reports state that the Sverdlov plant, one of the largest Russian manufacturers of explosives, is on fire. The enterprise is included in Ukraine's sanctions list for activities that threaten the territorial integrity, sovereignty, and independence of our state. The governor of the Nizhny Novgorod region stated that the region was attacked by 52 drones. The scale of the damage is currently being assessed. And this is not the first attack on this enterprise. The previous one was in April. Russian terrorists attacked a city bus in Kherson. 4 passengers died and 4 more women and the driver were injured. This happened in the Korabelny district around 9 in the morning when people were on their way to work. All the wounded have been hospitalized with injuries of varying degrees of severity. The driver sustained a blast injury. The Air Force shot down 58 enemy targets tonight, most of them UAVs, as well as 2 Banderol loitering munitions. In total, the Russians launched 65 drones and 2 Iskander ballistic missiles in the attack tonight. Not everything was shot down. Some of the enemy targets hit 10 locations, and debris from those that were destroyed was recorded at 3 others. The air attack is ongoing. There are still a few enemy UAVs in the sky. Therefore, please be especially mindful of your own safety while the threat continues. The Russians do not stop their attacks on the border areas for a single moment. In the Kharkiv region, 15 settlements came under attack, and in the morning, an enemy drone struck near a high-rise building in the Saltivsky district regional center. 3 people were injured as a result of an enemy drone strike in the Kharkivka community in the Sumy region. Throughout the day, the Russians shelled 15 settlements in the region, damaging residential buildings and destroying a car. 1 person was killed and 10 others were wounded in the Zaporizhzhia region. At night, the regional center was attacked by drones. A Shahed struck a hostel. 1 room burned down completely, the building is damaged. After the attack, there are power outages in the city. The Russians also terrorized the Zaporizhzhia district with drones. In Kushuhum, they hit a private house. 2 pensioners were wounded. In the morning, Zaporizhzhia and Rozumivka were struck by aviation. In the regional center, the private sector was affected with about 24 houses damaged. At dawn, the Russians dropped guided aerial bombs on the suburbs of Kherson. There is no information about casualties yet, and in the evening, drones crashed into apartment buildings. 3 civilians were injured. At Trump's request, the US and South Korea have scaled back joint military exercises. The training activities began only this week and were scheduled to last until August 27th, but will now conclude this Friday. This was reported by the Joint Chiefs of Staff of South Korea. This decision was made following public criticism from Trump directed at Seoul. The American president stated that South Korea did not help the US in the operation against Iran and that the exercises themselves are too costly. Trump is also convinced that the allies could pay up to $10 billion annually for the presence of the American contingent. Recently, the US and South Korea concluded a 5-year agreement on cost sharing for the deployment of over 28,000 American troops. According to it, Seoul's contribution this year is set to increase to over $1 billion. Coolness in relations also appeared against the backdrop of reports in the press about Trump's intention to hold a summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. As the Wall Street Journal claims, the American president discussed organizing such a meeting during his visit to Asian countries, which is planned for November. However, as the publication's sources noted, official preparations for such an event have not yet begun. Let us recall that during his first term, the US leader met with Kim at the border of North and South Korea and even stepped onto the territory of the DPRK. The meeting was called symbolic, but in the end, it did not yield any concrete results. The International Criminal Court is once again under United States sanctions. Washington has imposed restrictions on ICC President Tomoko Akane and senior court lawyer Abdoulaye Cissé. Now, their assets that are under U.S. jurisdiction will be effectively cut off from the American financial system. The U.S. Treasury Department has already issued authorization to halt transactions related to them. In Washington, this decision was explained by the fact that these individuals were directly involved in investigations against persons whose governments do not recognize the jurisdiction of the ICC. The international legal community condemned the decision. They stated that it undermines the rule of law. These are not the first American sanctions against the ICC. Last year, a number of prosecutors and judges were subject to similar restrictions. At that time, the reason was the arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the country's former defense minister Yoav Gallant. The ICC also issued an arrest warrant for Russian dictator Vladimir Putin for the illegal deportation and transfer of Ukrainian children. Regarding the word, it limited its ability to enter more than 100 countries around the world that have ratified the Rome Statute. A mandatory evacuation has been announced in 4 more villages in the Kharkiv region. These are Kalinove, Chornolazivka, Karasivka, and Myronivka. Families with children will be forcibly evacuated from there. In total, along with adult guardians, 142 people need to be evacuated from there. And in the Dnipropetrovsk region, 16 villages have been added to the list of settlements subject to mandatory evacuation at once. We are talking about 3 communities in the Sinelnikov district that are suffering from constant shelling. Families with children must leave within a month. People will first be taken to transit centers, and then they will be assisted with resettlement. They barely survived the night under enemy bombs and waited for evacuation. Police officers and chaplains evacuated 5 pensioners from Novoivanivka. This is a village in the Komishuvaka community in the Zaporizhzhia region. The settlement is only 30 kilometers from the front line, and in recent weeks the Russians have begun destroying the streets with aerial bombs. Many people were left homeless. That is exactly what prompted them to leave. TSN correspondent Daria Nazarova found out how many people remained in the battered village.
On these deserted streets, you no longer meet people. Just last year, life was bustling here. Now there are broken houses, abandoned animals, and a constant swarm of enemy drones in the sky.
Moving.
In a week, Russian troops completely destroyed Novoivanivka, which is 30 kilometers from the contact line. The once picturesque village has turned into a wasteland with piles of shattered brick and wood.
Look, half the village is gone, right down the street.
Half the field was blown away here, and one man had his legs blown off. I was on the sofa, Vera was next to me on a mattress. We were thinking, let it not be us. I heard the first one, and there were 5 impacts. We had 4 already, and the 5th one went straight into the house. I didn't even have time to get scared. I reacted somehow, knowing I needed to grab all the documents, knowing where everything was kept. I turned on the flashlight.
Residents say they barely survived the night before their departure. From midnight, Russian aviation began operating over the village. Mr. Vossel says he doesn't even understand how he and his wife survived. We don't know where to look for you anymore. We drove all around the village.
And Vasquez cane.
And where is the cane? Cane burned down.
Burned down.
We stopped by your place.
Everything burned down.
The ruins of his house are still smoldering after the night attack. The house did not withstand the shelling. Mr. Vasil ended up under the rubble, but he survived. His wife dug him out with her own hands.
Grandpa, I rushed. Ran. It was burning there. I ran, just in my nightgown, barefoot. Bas, honey, come on, let's get out. Bas, you go. But I'm done for. It's all smoking. We started to pull him out. I barely managed to pull him out. I pulled him out, barely managed to bring him home. I bathed him. His right arm isn't working. His left arm, he has all that, everything is blue.
Uh-huh.
I sat him down, bathed him, changed his clothes. He didn't sleep, I didn't sleep all that night. But today he slept well. I gave him pills, everything. And he just had some coffee. I said, well, come on. I said, yeah, get ready, we're going to leave.
Now she is sending her husband to Zaporizhzhia alone because she says she is forced to stay. We have to go. Well, what do you have here? A household? Well, you see, what about the household?
I know my little son, I know how my little sons will grow up.
Well, I understand.
Who?
We need to decide.
My little Vietnamese piglets will grow up. Well, we will slaughter the big pigs. But right now, they are small. They are almost a month old, striped ones, kittens, goslings, little chicks. So we will slaughter the big ones, but the small ones, where do the small ones go? This needs to be chosen.
Neighbors are seeing the couple off. Police are begging them to leave, but the people are staying in the village. The farm is one of the main reasons. So when will you be leaving?
I have goats, I haven't sold them yet.
Ooh!
He is supposed to come.
Well, we'll take them with us. On the next street, chaplains, together with the cops, are picking up 2 more pensioners. During the farewell, the neighbors cannot hold back their tears. Those who are leaving are crying too. They have no doubt that they are seeing their native village for the last time.
We will live out the rest of our lives together there.
Despite the good weather and clear sky, these are perfect conditions for enemy drones to hunt. The evacuation group was lucky not to come under fire. 5 pensioners with their belongings were taken to Zaporizhzhia.
The people's houses were damaged by a massive shelling that happened yesterday. Some houses are completely destroyed. There is no electricity supply in the settlement.
There are constant power outages in a number of other villages in the Komishuvaka community. The enemy is deliberately destroying infrastructure, forcing people out of here. Every day the Russians launch dozens of aerial bombs and hundreds of attack drones at the Zaporizhzhia district, wiping out homestead after homestead. Daria Nazarova, Andrei Kupovka, Zaporizhzhia, TSN 1+1. The symbol of the mechanized lion will now travel across Ukraine. A special cancellation of a postage stamp dedicated to the 157th Separate Mechanized Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine took place in Kyiv. The sketches were based on portraits of service members from the brigade because behind every combat success stand real people. The ceremony itself took place at the National Military History Museum of Ukraine. Among those present were the soldiers depicted in these portraits, including the people's hero of Ukraine, Volodymyr Rusetsky. The 157th Mechanized Brigade is famous for using ground-based robotic complexes and unmanned systems, which help carry out combat missions remotely, reducing the risk to the military.
It is very important for us to preserve the memory of current events, of our guys who are holding the front line, to etch it into memory and thus pass on the memory of them to future generations.
First and foremost, this will be a story not just for me, but for our entire unit and for all generations, because it depicts the service members who are currently fighting directly. These are aerial reconnaissance scouts, our crews, strike UAV crews, and ground-based unmanned system crews.
We thank every defender who is protecting Ukraine, both on the front lines and in the rear. As for me, I'll leave it at that until the next broadcast at 1400. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones. See you later.